I would like to really have a birds of a feather session, not a talk, and I would like to ask you to contribute and participate, not only by asking questions, but also by expressing options and criticizing the idea, if there's anything to be criticized. The basis of what I'm trying to talk about, or what I would like to talk about, is the small teams thing that groups. That Debian is a very big group by now, and it's starting to get to the borders of its scalability. We have officially about 1,000 people as Debian developers, lots and lots of users, lots and lots of knowledgeable people, and some inactive maintainers, and we start to lose sight of each other. We don't know each other anymore, all, of course, for a long time already. And I think that small teams are a very good way of addressing all these issues at once. Small teams, as I expressed in my platform, that's the URL there, under the small teams topic, are, I think, one of the most important characteristics that a group as Debian can have to be in a to grow in a healthy way and in a scalable way, because they can provide a smooth entry into Debian when people ask lots of questions, when people don't know the ways Debian works yet, and where they need to learn a lot, and where they perhaps only want to help out a little bit in the beginning. At that point, they could learn easier and more smoothly and without less interruption and stuff in a small team. They could also. It's also a good way of getting to know people, because you only have to learn to get around with 10 or so people, not with 1,000 or the people who are hanging out on the big mailing list or on the IRC. And because you are able to get to know each other faster, you're also more likely to get to know them quicker and feel at home faster. Because of that, it's also much more likely that you don't drop out as fast. If you have friends and if you have people who you relate to, not only in a social context, but in a technical context, but also in a social one, where you can talk about any problems you might have, not only technical, but also with your car or with your favorite football team losing again and stuff. This might be a better one possible place where you can start to talk about stuff, and where you could meet others to relate to. That's not the goal to only talk about football or cars, but it's an additional thing that you might be interested in, and your common developers are they might be able to be interested in the same things. And pardon?
You're talking about loops?
No. I talk about groups on IRC, like where you have a little community which shares more than only technical problems. And these small groups can also form a certain knowledge pool when they work on a common subject. They will communicate about problems and solutions, and they will also be able to remember problems and solutions that others had before, and be able to ask the other one, how did you solve this again, and how did that work? And they also will be able to help others to solve the same problem again, and perhaps solve the same problem themselves, perhaps. so knowledge is spread out and it's not in one single place, but it's in several places at once. Because these teams can grow and divide themselves, they are also a very good way of to scale, because they are self-organizing. There's no central authority which will be needed to talk to when the team splits up into two groups, into two smaller groups again, once it grew. Once the team discovered that one part is more interested in the translation part, for example, of a program, and the other part is more interested in further development, and they have reached a certain size, they might just be able to split up and still have ties there, but work on their own on these special focus topics.
One question, sorry I missed the start. Do you have in mind small teams of developers or end users, or both?
Actually, it can be both. Yeah. It can be a very smooth new maintainer process, actually, okay, where the training happens in the group. Okay. And it doesn't need a formalized thing, more or less. Once you notice that this person grew into a very knowledgeable person in this field, you might just tell him, hey, why don't you get a Debian account? You could work even more efficient then. We think that you know everything that's needed to be a full-fledged Debian developer. Yeah. And others might not even be interested in that. Perhaps they would just like to translate this little application forever, yeah, and update strings and stuff. Or perhaps others come into the group and by just asking questions because they have problems with these kind of applications in Debian. Mm-hmm. And with time they not only know the application, but they also become interested in developing it further. And then they might even do that. And actually, in these small groups, it's also much easier to develop your special skills, your talents that you as a person inherently have, even further to say, you might notice for the first time that you are very good at graphics design, not just programming. And with help of others in that group, you might develop that skill further and further and learn in that context. Others might perhaps notice that they are good leaders for these kind of small groups. And it's really hard in Debian right now to develop leadership skills, because leaders are right now kind of frowned upon. And in these kind of groups, it would be possible to train without being able to do much damage, or on a small scale, these kind of talents and things, which are definitely there, but are right now in Debian hardly recognized and not really. Yeah. And within these small groups, communication gets much easier, because you have only few people who are you have to relate to. You know people better. You know what their buttons are, what they need to talk about, and how to explain stuff. And because it can be informal and it takes less effort, perhaps, the knowledge within the group is probably better distributed and communication is easier. Then I also gave some characteristics of what the team should be like in my platform. They shouldn't be growing too big. If a group, the sweet spot is, I guess, seven people, and if it becomes too big, then people lose sight of each other, they drop out, and the MIA, missing in action problem, reappears. If the group is small, people who drop or who seem to drop out can be caught much easier. It's not about catching people. It's more like keeping people hot on the topic, so to speak. Or well, if someone is having a hard time in real life, you might either support him or know what's going on, and trigger him once the problem is perhaps over, so that he can come back into the group or can come back to working in the group. And the group must be aware and should be aware, and it might even look forward to the point where it divides, where it's not one group but two groups. It might be some people might feel like, oh, it's so cozy with these few people here, and we don't ever want to grow and don't ever want to separate. But actually, it should be in their minds that that's not a bad thing. That it means actually that it's a healthy process to at some point split up and extend the whole growth process, and that it's a healthy and normal thing. It's a biological thing, so to say. And these people must be somehow compatible.
Social compatible.
Yeah, that's what I said. So if some people have a... do you know what I mean with social compatible? It's hard to explain, I feel. Can someone think of a good example?
Maybe it's a one-to-one translation of the German, and so the Germans understand.
Only German understand the... Perhaps is it a German thing to say social compatibility?
If you dislike another one, you will not work with them together.
You don't understand me?
No, I said it's about communication, it's about
Of course, yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
But it's not just communication, it could even be like work habits. Some people might, like to check everything into version control very quickly and have everything well documented. And some people may have a completely different style to that.
Yeah,
and
true.
It would irritate each other if they had to work together and they weren't really, having the same style.
Right. And for the communication, it's also important that people spend time together, that they don't just, and that this communication is kind of real time, that it's not, mailing lists are kind of not very lively. Well, they can be lively, but it's hard to get the character of a person on a mailing list. Mailing lists can be much different than meetings like these, or ISC, or other more interactive things. So it would be good if the contact is as real as possible, and if people are in the same time zone even, so that they can meet on ISC or whatnot regularly, or if they have phone meetings, for example, even, I'm not sure, could be everything. What I also said before is that the team should not concern itself about technical matters only. Even if it's a technical working group, it should be possible to bring up personal issues. That's important for growing friends, more or less. The goal is not to have an exclusive group of friends, but to have people who feel something positive for each other, who have some kind of respect for each other, not only working-wise, but perhaps even socially.
What if by chance the people in this team cannot work together? What should we do if it doesn't work in this team?
That comes to conflict resolution.
Yeah.
The question was, what could we do if we if people can't work together in these kind of small groups.
If 1 or 2 members in the team are just stupid, say it this way.
Okay. if people are too stupid to be dealt with, well, there's always the option to leave them. For example, that's the ultimate reason. The ultimate.
To fork.
Yeah, it's possible that it's that these two people or more people are one person fits better into another group, and then you should encourage him to look for that group.
If they work on the same topic, if they are working on the same topic, and these socially stupid persons are technically perfect.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like,
Is it me you're talking about?
Yes,
I think teams are never fixed. That it's a dynamic process.
Right.
And, some members will leave the team and other will join the team. So you have always this dynamic thing
True.
in teams.
Of course, you also should be able to address such issues.
Yeah.
That you should point out to a person that he should perhaps change in a certain way, or that the whole group needs to perhaps adjust and become more stupid. No.
the problem is the people form around the task, and I was just provocating. I have no certain thing in mind now, but it might happen that people who are formed around this certain task are just not able to communicate
Yeah.
with each other, but they want to solve the task.
I think in real life it's not that common. I think usually when you form a group and people notice that they don't fit in, they just don't grow in further. It's not that much of a real problem, I think. And it's more likely that people who work well together or actually form a group. And yeah.
I think the real life events are very important
Yeah.
for small teams.
Yeah.
And if there is a communication problem, when I say you, I will have something else to say, but you must make your best to have people just meet. Actually, just like we are doing here. I used to say that people are very unlikely to flame together when they have met once in real life.
Yeah.
And this is at least very important. Not easy to do.
Yeah.
But this is important for a team's life, to just meet, and as you said, to be kind of group of friends and share something else than technical tasks.
True. Another thing which I also briefly mentioned was that the groups should be open to new people. They shouldn't form this. We are feeling together. We are feeling so good together. We don't want new people because they would disturb our nice little world here. But they should be open for people who want to come into the group, who have additional talents, and who want to participate. They should be should even have some kind of smooth entry point where they can easy tasks for newcomers. Actually, it's not true that new people in a group want the sexy problems right away. Spell checking the documentation is an excellent task for new people. Really, things that need no high skill set, just to come into the thing, just to get used to the thing, to the whole process. Simple things are much more effective to rope people into the real work, which comes sometimes later, than the sexy technical problems which are to be solved later. Another good thing for a team is to have some kind of leader. I think you see that in lots of places in Debian. The internationalization project
Don't look at me, please.
has good leaders, I think. Debian installer has good leaders.
Yeah.
Debian edu has a leader. There are other groups in local contexts which have leaders, and that works actually well. It helps. It's not that there are small kings or so which don't listen to people, but they are of course caring for the group in some way, and they try to further this group. And it's nothing to be scared about. That someone might become the evil over whatnot friend. Also, yeah, please.
Well, kind of like the opposite of that. What do you do if you want a team and you're ready to lead and you have all kinds of information and things to do, but nobody likes your software enough to want to join the team? I think you know what I'm referring to as well.
Yeah.
Webman.
Yeah, Webman is a problem. Enrico Tini has the same problem with step tags, and he started with the what?
It's not true that nobody likes step tags.
No, it's not like
Nobody likes Webman, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's
Well, it's not true. Everyone wants to help, and they say they're ready to help, and then they take one look at it, and you never hear from them again.
yeah. So maybe
That's
they
the
decide that
problem.
the software should be fixed.
Well, it seems to be popular with the users. Otherwise,
Yeah, but
actually,
then they haven't looked at the code.
Yeah.
yeah. Enrico tries the approach of giving simple tasks to people, to actually have the simple tasks ready, and tries to rope people into doing them first, and to get them more and more interested.
Yeah. This is one thing I made for the shadow package maintenance. To get more people involved, we have a lot of areas, and we started by localization tasks, and I get a few people for localization tasks. Bug triaging is very important, and it doesn't require as much skill as you might think. Doing some good bug triaging needs a good knowledge of the bug tracking system, but not necessarily a good knowledge of the software. And it's quite easy to give this task to new people, as long as they know Debian enough.
Just say Enrico once more, and he will stay. He came in and he said Enrico, but now he's leaving.
That's what I wrote on my platform, more or less. And you didn't elect me.
Yeah, this is why we are here. So we had to choose between Brandon and you, and we chose to see you. And I voted for Brandon.
You have to go upstairs to blame the others.
Yeah, right. What problems do you see? What do you think? What would you like to talk about regarding small teams?
Well, I want to give my experience with the German Scholar Linux team, what we are doing and how we are working together. So we started this year to experiment 1 weekend in a month. So we have every month we have 1 weekend to learn and to work together. And if somebody joins this weekend, I really know if I could work with him or not. So it's a good chance to know about people more than by mailing list or by IRC.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a mathematical, it looks like a mathematical problem. I have done a lot of work in political issues, and I saw the groups are always pending between 10 and 15 people. If it goes up, it will split nearly automatically. And if it goes down less than 5 or 4 people, it will die. So this, I don't know, I'm a sociologist, but I didn't find out why it is, but it looks like a mathematical problem of communication.
Have you tried to split the group?
No.
Have you tried to develop a new leader in that group?
No, we tried to build other regions. Regional group is the approach now. Because we are in the northern part, and there are other groups about Scholar Linux now growing up. What I'm thinking, what is important to find a solution for somebody who wants not more join this group. A good solution, not to lose his space. So if there is trouble and somebody's coming, not coming, so how to solve this?
Actually, what you're saying that there's a certain range of people, numbers of people who can work together, that often is an indication of the potential of the leader. There, most people or most leaders have a certain number of open ports, so to speak, which they can keep connections up on. And often the leader is the social person in the group who keeps everyone involved and stuff. And some people manage somehow magically to attract over 100 people and keep them alive and keep them going. I'm not such a person. But there are actually different types of leaders, and the type of leader which is ultimately effective is that leader who looks for new leaders, makes them grow up, take over responsibility, and take over part of the group.
Yeah, there's now a working and learning weekend now in Germany at the same time. I'm not there.
Great. Great.
And it's running.
Yeah, good. So
Really?
Yeah, really. You can go to the IRC, you can see what they're doing.
So
Faking
so I think the point is actually, and in this it's a scalability problem, and it's a leadership development problem at that point. Often groups need leaders, and most groups in Debian actually have leaders, and yeah, some are bigger and some are smaller.
Yeah. Maybe our leaders in Debian, because of our technical culture, we based the skills to be a leader mostly on technical skills.
On coding.
That's
On coding, yes. And this is probably a problem. We probably more need leaders with social skills, as you said,
Exactly.
and maybe less technical things. And because if you have both the technical things and the seat of leader, you can become a dictator. Okay, and if you have not the, I speak by experience about this shadow thing, because I don't know a single byte of the code of this package I upload. And this is quite good, because you have good people who give you good advices, and you just have to organize the things so that they work. And this is the role of the leader. And sometimes just hide himself or herself and just hear, listen, and summarize. That's a part of the group of leader. About the scalability, it probably depends on the size of the project, because saying 10 to 15 when you talk about Debian packages is a lot of people, and I'm afraid that not much teams will reach that limit of 10 people.
Yeah.
I'm just quoting from a mail from Debian Private. It's only one sentence. It sucks that our former DPL is a magister in psychology and did the fuck about that. I think this is a really, really precise example. I do not speak about the facts he did not thought about, but I think it's not true. But the reasoning that he is a magister of psychology to use that he did something wrong is completely bad example for what happens in Debian. It doesn't matter what he studied. It's to be a leader and not something else. And by the way, he is technical, perfect in several things. I think.
Did everyone understand that? Okay. No,
Why do you rephrase?
Yeah.
You understood.
Andreas pointed out that TBM, I think, was criticized for being not only technical person and a Debian leader, which, in my point of view, is not really helpful and not good.
TBM is one of those rare people who has 100 open ports.
Right.
He kept up with hundreds of people and knew their personal situations.
True. And
but he wasn't very visible to the anonymous people in Debian. I think he only worked with the core.
No, I'm not too sure. He was very open, at least at the beginning.
I could mention any person to him, he would tell me why why they weren't paid to develop work on Debian at any given time, for example.
He just appeared a bit of disappear in the past year of his 2 years period. So then he was really not so visible anymore. But before that, he was very visible. When I started working on Debian, he was quite. I just saw that he answered quite often, quite helpful. So he was really very visible then.
I've really only seen him on the Debian installer channel and practically nowhere else.
Well, I think this is not the problem. The problem is that people base their reasoning on the fact that he is studying psychology. It's completely irrelevant for the problem.
Actually, I got the same feedback from people when I asked for feedback why I didn't get elected, and someone said that I should try to build up a good technical reputation before I would attempt to become Debian project leader, which is, I think, not the best way to approach this. But I also got questions about how about drawbacks of small groups. People said that it might become a infight between small groups in Debian. That the kernel team would start blocking the installer, or that Debian Edu would hinder the development of whatnot. I don't know. Have you ever experienced this?
Well, I think we have different types of groups. If I would say it's an installer group, or what I know more is a release group, which also I say is just a small group of people. I think we are very open to add people. Everybody can join our discussion channel. IRC, everybody can write a mail. Of course, if there's off-topic discussion, we say no off-topic discussion here, please, for very good reason, but that was it. Well, for these groups, I didn't see anything. Of course, sometimes the kernel team, the installer team, the release team has different opinions, for example, about the kernel versions. But I think in the end we got to a solution where we all could live with it. Nobody was really happy, but the facts didn't allow it to, that everybody is happy with it. Even one group is totally happy because it was just difficult. That happens sometimes, but I think in the end it was a very productive go together. And there are other teams that are a bit more hidden, I would say. They say, oh, this person is also part of the team. I never knew that before. For example, I was really quite astonished when I was in Vancouver. I got in mail, oh, there sounds like a team's cut, and 2 members of the team's cut have had this meeting. I didn't know it before when I get to the plane. Yeah, and that is really something I'm not so happy with, and it's perhaps a bit difficult to work with such a team. Because, well, it was announced that, for example, Teams Cut makes the meetings public, or makes publish minutes of the meeting. I think I've had 1 or 2 minutes since the DPL election, which is, I think, 3 months ago. That's things that make it a bit more difficult. And for example, for the release team, we make our minutes public if we have meetings. We had meetings. We usually make meetings in public. There are, of course, sometimes exceptions, but the public is the default, not the exception. And I think that this question is, which way of team do you want to like? And different teams behave different in such situations.
Could you rephrase that into a more clear statement? I think that's kind of...
Well, I think we have different types of teams, and with such, I would say, open teams, it's very easy to let's say, get on together, especially as if there's a connecting point, it will happen very fast that there are people who are in both teams. That's true between the installer team and the kernel team, that's true between the installer team and the release team, for example. And there are other teams where the team membership happens on a, perhaps on other criteria, I would say. And it might be more difficult. Of course, there are teams where there's a good reason. For example, security team who reads VendorSec, they can't just any Debian developer join it, VendorSec. That's of course understood. But for some teams, I think we perhaps want to adjust that.
Email transparent to most of the teams. The DPL team, we just got 1 or 2 minutes, and that's all. We don't know what's happening there.
Yeah. Is that a question or is it a statement?
No, it's a fact for me, and I just want to have it to say small teams should be transparent to be accepted and to be visible for the normal developer.
Yeah, I agree. I agree actually.
So transparent is very important in Debian.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
But in my opinion, I'm not really sure. I would love transparency, fine. But if this transparency costs a certain amount of time for the people who could do something at the same time, I'm not really convinced that transparency is the most important thing. It is important, but not perhaps not the most important.
But then we have something like the FTP master, which are not transparent to anybody.
But I actually, my point of this is from my opinion, this is sure, transparency is a quality. There are other qualities, and we shouldn't be strict and saying it must be transparent. There was also, I believe, in the same discussions as you brought forward, there was some questioning of there was a new there was announced a new mailing list, and somebody said, "So, whoa, the archives are not public. I thought that everything should be public in this organization." It was like, well, no, that's not the case. Because if we force everything to be public, well, then people some people will just choose to not use the resources of Debian and then just call each other or send private emails to each other, because some things are not convenient to do in the same way. So we shouldn't be strict. We should just advertise these qualities. Say, oh, think about what you could gain from this.
But actually, in my experience, it helps actually the team if it's more transparent. Because, for example, when we have it's a release team, we have to make difficult decisions sometimes. For example, a lot of people who think their package is the most important needs to go into the release. If we make our way how we handle the situation, why we consider some things more or less important, if we make it transparent, it helps us that the people understand what we want, that we get better requests from the people, or that the people say, oh, I'm not going to request this thing because I have no chance at all to do it, so I just don't request it. I see your reasons, even if I dislike it.
So what can we then do to make small teams in Debian more common, and how can we increase the concentration of small teams? How can we make further small teams in Debian?
I mean, more small teams.
More small teams.
Yeah, well, like for the release team, the kernel team. If you remember the release of Woody, well, some of you might remember it, but as far as I understood, there was a release. I was even not reading any Debian mailing lists at the time, so I don't know.
Actually, I'm sorry, I didn't. I looked at you when I asked the question, but I asked everyone. What do you feel can we do to have more small teams in a healthy way in Debian? Let them be transparent or whatever.
Perhaps people should just get more used to the idea, and we can do that at least with the newer members by having new maintainers be part of a team as part of their new maintainer process.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, instead of thinking singular responsibilities, then thinking in groups.
Can you say something to that? Is that generally, have you considered that as a dam to encourage that? I'm just asking you because you're here.
What exactly? I haven't understood all of it.
Yes, the people encouraged to work as groups, but I think we have changed the template, so now people are encouraged to work on other people's bugs. So
Yalda said that it would be one option to increase more have more small teams in Debian would be to have them integrated into new maintainer, into the new maintainer
sort of
process.
Apprenticeship as part of the new maintainer process. You know, you have to join some team and help that team in some way. Because yesterday, I'm sorry, I don't remember who said it, but somebody said that you know, we're getting a lot of people with just one dinky little package, which they package just to fulfill, you know, the requirements for a new maintainer. And it's too package development centric. And it's not really, you know, if you're just interested in, let's say, documentation, you know, it's a bit concentrates too much on building packages at one point.
For documentation maintainers, we have a way to do documentation tests. And for other people, like one guy who only works with CD images, we've adjusted that and he did only work on CD stuff. Good question in that direction. So we are flexible. The only problem is that as a dump you get a report to read, and from that report you decide if the person goes in or not. And so you need to get with that report the dump satisfied with it. Which
how you do it, I don't care that much about it.
Then maybe we want that better advertised, because as at least me, how I feel it is presented now is that, well, it's about packaging. What you need to do to get through.
90% of the people do want to make packages.
Yes, but the point here, as I heard it, was not that people that don't do packaging, but it's also that there's another skill that is important beyond being able to maintain a package.
It is advertised in the new maintainers
To
pages actually
cooperate.
that you don't need to do. There are several tasks and skills areas that are listed.
But
it
the
seems to be
new thing here brought up is a skill saying cooperation.
But we discussed exactly about that more than once in the Debian new maintainer list. And the side of all discussions was, if you have a very good idea how to do it, decide a mail, sum it up in a mail to the new maintainers, and people will do it. But actually, we try to push people in that direction. We change the templates more than once. For example, now people are really forced to look outside of their own simple package. And some people really fail on trying to fix an SC bug, for example. So that's something we try to tell the people, look not only at your package, but at the Debian as whole. But if there are good ideas how we can make that further, I think there's definitely open, and any suggestions in that direction that was brought to Debian new maintainers till now was just taken up.
So would you say that we would need more process documentation for people like, for example, artists to become Debian developers by having, for example, an artist small group which develops a new maintainer process for new artists to come into Debian, or so that we can assess their skills, their understanding of free software or free information flow, whatever, about
I think
how they can participate in Debian.
We now jump into a totally different discussion.
Pardon what?
Totally different discussion.
No, it's a part of the how can we get more small groups in Debian.
I know. Actually, I think. Yeah, I think it's a different question. But if you want, I can answer. I can still answer.
You don't need to have anyone can.
Just don't look always at me. It
yeah,
makes
well,
me easy to answer then.
Yeah, please.
I just want to come back to transparency, and in the new maintainer process we had some point in time where new Debian maintainers were announced in Debian private. There was names and shorts, whatever. And I think it stopped because it is just an effort for the DAM to make this announcement.
It's a Debian project.
Okay, then, but okay, then I did not recognize the move. But I think you could do it by just making the people announce themselves. I don't know if it's the case.
The text that is posted there is written by them.
Okay.
We are asking
then
that the ID step write about you. We will post it.
Okay, I will just.
Andreas?
Yeah. I'm just
sorry, may I interrupt you for a second? There's actually no time pressure. You can continue on
okay.
if we need to discuss further.
Yeah, my idea is to build local groups. So we have this test center in the northern region of Schuldei Linux, in Germany, it's called Linux Test Center, and we have only one meeting a month. So there are 3 weekends free. So my idea is to get the local Debian guys together and to give something like talks about Linux, about free software and such things, to have pizza together, and then to build a local Debian group. And then if the people are meeting, then we will win new people to join the Debian project.
I just don't, that's one approach, but I don't think that will reach. There's a lot of people that it won't reach. I don't think I'm alone when I join gatherings like this. I do it 1 time a year, maybe 2 times a year. Most of the time I work alone. I work on my own. What I do in cooperation, I do digitally. I don't think I'm alone in working like that. So that's the reason from the beginning I asked, are you talking about looks? Because this sounds more like thinking in the look way for Debian, creating Debian looks. And I think what you're talking about is something else. That is, in the digital world, how do we come together in digitally?
Well, it's
whether or not it's physically closely connected.
You can use the real-life approach to build groups, of course. That's a good way, I think. If you can do it, you should do it. But lots of groups just can't meet that in that way, often at least. So if it's available, we should use it, I think. But if we can't, we should have some alternative approaches.
We have funds to allow people to travel and meet up.
Right.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with how Python works. Where they have the concept of a sprint, which is basically they have a couple of people that come together for a couple of days. And basically, at the start, they'll start with a list of stuff they want to implement or discuss or aspect, and then they just sit together with a couple of people for a couple of days and basically just work on it. What seems to work very well for them. It is a small group. It is managed pretty well since they do have a fixed plan of what they want to do and why they want to do it. It seems to speed up their development quite a bit.
Debian Edu works the same way, or they don't have that. We don't call it sprints. We call it development gatherings, and we try to have about 6 per year, and yeah, we also have lists of what we want to do, and we provide people with sponsorship for travels if we can, and food. Yeah, but we also try to make it more virtual because it's now we are kind of spread out by now, and we try to have them meet at the same time in different spots on the globe to yeah, and then meet over IRC or other means like voice over IP and stuff.
I've got a question, sort of a comment too. I really like small groups, but we have to remember that they're in the context of a larger group, which is Debian. And a problem that I've started to see is the problem of communicating between small groups. For example, working on DI, I have to communicate with the FTP masters, the release group, the CD group, the kernel group, the localization group, etc. And the problem that I see is you maybe have 1 or 2 people in a small group, but you communicate with these other groups because they're part of the group. But that sort of limits the communication. And if you don't have that kind of tie, then you have to talk like both groups together, which gets really messy in some ways. And I'm just wondering if anybody has any ideas of how we can deal with this as we get more small groups in Debian.
Yeah, I thought of, oh, sorry. I thought of a thing in that related to that. Currently we have this quality assurance thing. When I have my packages, and I can have an overview of a package and what is related to the package. And also by email, when somebody sends an email to my package name at packages Debian.org, then it reaches that package. Similar, you could have probably not an email but sending to all lists related to a package, because that would be very noisy. But at least like a web tying together what is actually tied to this package. If it uses these resources, scanning the source. I'm talking about a technical.
Yeah, but I mean, technically, it's not difficult. I know what the relationships are, but the problem is communicating once you know those relationships.
I think we're definitely underusing devel announce. You know, I think if every group could do like a bits from like once every month or so, or 6 weeks, you know, it doesn't have to like. We don't have to know every detail of what they're doing, but just the highlights. You know, it would be so helpful for people who are not living Debian 24 hours a day. You know?
I think your question is a bit scary because in reality it doesn't get worse if you have to with teams. Because I would have only one release manager, one FTP master, and one kernel guy. Would it be much better for you?
In a way it is, because then you can say, if I need to talk to somebody, we can just talk to this person instead of we have to find somebody in the group who we can talk to. Okay. And you can build a one-on-one relationship at least. And that way they sort of effectively become part of your group in some way, rather than just being a group that, you know, you have to try to get them to do something, and yet that means finding somebody in the group to do it. And sometimes you get the effect with groups that nobody does something. Right. Because they always expect somebody else to do it.
And pick, you know, an FTP master or
yeah, well, that's what I've done.
And just adopt them as part of the team.
I think you need delegates within the team to deal with certain issues, and they should keep the other team members informed of what's happening on that front. But But then I think the discussions we've had with the kernel team and with the release team, some of them were very productive. Sure. Especially when we did the larger scale discussions. But as soon as we started to zero in, it got messy on the channels.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the issues that I see is that if you have a delegate from one group to another group, the obvious way to do that is sort of become part of both groups. And sometimes that isn't possible. For example, it's very hard for someone to become part of the FTP master team. It's possible for somebody to become part of the release team, but still they have to have certain qualities. And so it becomes difficult. You know, you can end up with one person who's doing too much work, for example, for that kind of thing.
The example of the FTP master team, that's just an information participation actually, to be able to communicate better with them. So it's at that point mostly a communication problem, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm describing this mostly communication problems.
Yeah. And then the FTP team might want to, or could be able to change to be more open or accept people into the group just for communication skills, perhaps, or for. Pardon?
Do you really believe that?
Yes, it's possible, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, somebody could volunteer to be the secretary to the FTP master.
For example.
And the, you know,
we are moving
voice
in that
of the
direction,
FTP
actually. Matt?
I wanted to make one comment about picking one particular person from each team to be the go-to person, and that is that vulnerability, because you know if you have somebody in particular who's overloaded or has something going on in their life or something like that. So the key word is so the key word is delegate, and then they have and then there's a system of backup. So if one person is too busy or something, you still have somebody else in the group that you can go to.
And the other bad thing is about delegating from single person is sometimes you just have to keep the group, the whole group into the loop, so that they know why something moves into that direction. For example, that the whole kernel team must understand that not releasing with something newer than 268 was not meant to be bad to them, but was really necessary. So you need to keep the whole group into the loop, so that they all understand the way why this is headed in a certain direction. And that's a bit bad if you have only one delegate, because he might have to say, okay, yes, I see it, but then he needs to convince other team members.
Yeah, maybe that's vital.
And also it sounds like
communicates back to the team.
Yeah, well, sometimes it works good. It's just that's one of the possible pitfalls. Of course, we can work around it. That's understood.
What did you want to say? Hello? What did you want to say?
No, I was just asking back to speak up. So I was going to say maybe that's where the previous idea of using Debian develop announce would come in, is that each subgroup would, if they're doing a good job of keeping up with their monthly or every 6-week reports, that's a good summary to help everybody understand, what decisions were made in that group and why they did certain things. And
right.
It helps the group members and the rest of Debian.
I agree. So, what are you going to do when you come home?
Vote for Debian. And I'll vote for Brandon.
Of course.
Matthias, there's a really good, ich muss in Deutsch sagen, es gibt eine sehr gute Doktorarbeit über, wie man ein Projekt leiten kann. Eine Untersuchung über erfolgreiche Projekte, die ist von Matthias Stürmer und die ist gerade geschrieben worden im März und die war voller Tipps, wie man ein Projekt erfolgreich leiten kann. Kannst du das übersetzen?
Kurt is saying that there's been a dissertation on the subject about how to lead a how to lead a project, an open source project, and it was full of tips how to lead a project.
Yeah.
Kurt will post the link to this
exactly.
on the Dev Conference.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's in English, so it's easy to read.
Right. What else? Do you want to? What's going to be your next step to increase the team work in Debian? You know that now I want something from you.
Yeah. Make webmin essential.
Pardon?
Make webmin essential.
Right.
to take my own packages one by one and make them team maintained.
Right.
Because I really believe that's the core issue of all this, is to think of packages as team things instead of thinking them as personal things.
Yes. But you orphan them, they're a team package.
Yes.
But the problem is you need somebody first who want to join the team. If you haven't anybody, you can't force anybody to be in the team, because if you try to force, it doesn't work.
Right.
And the problem is, I do not really like to call me a team leader of Debian Med. I just want to call me initiator or whatever. But the problem is, people who are on this Debian Med list just rely on me to lead and do not want to join the giving the directions also. This is a problem to enforce people to do some more than just being a member.
Okay.
I think one way to find members or possible members for your package maintaining is to just go to the bug list and see who has submitted more than 2 bugs, because they have apparently taken the effort to.
But this is on package level. This is not on project level.
No, that's not.
I've tried that for Alien and it's not working.
I tried that too, it doesn't work. I got like 20 bug reports and
Sorry?
There are exceptions to it.
patches.
Well,
That's the point. That's the way.
Is, in theory, it's a group thing since there are 3 of us, but we don't really talk with each other. So I know that Bugsy is doing, he's approving the occasional package, and I know Roland is approving the occasional package, and I'm doing the occasional thing, but I haven't talked to either of them in like 2 months.
Do you need to? Do you need to coordinate that kind of team? I wouldn't have thought so. Not now, though.
Well, no. Well, we need people to do like documentation for stuff. That's not seen any volunteers yet. And I've asked a few people who are complaining about documentation, and for some reason they suddenly got very quiet as well. So it's not that simple to get a team for something.
Right. If you come home, everybody can do some press relations, some public relation things, and spread about a nice conference here and so on, speaking to young people, and then we will win them.
Actually, press work is not easy, and I know that you are good at it, but many people are not good at it. So I wouldn't ask everyone to start press work now.
Start learning, yeah. Just do mistakes and start learning.
Oh! Debian, no!
But what you said before that about your sub-project, nobody else is taking leadership position up. But I think that's later because they already have a good leadership, so they don't need to. For example, I'm pretty sure that Schuldei is a very good leader of a project. As you can see, this installer. But on the release team, he's not taking up leadership.
But the problem is, if the leader is run over by the bus, the project is in trouble.
Yeah, but nobody wants you to be run out of a bus, yes. So nobody wants to take a little.
But actually, just for example, it's a release team. We had the release manager, and then the release manager just stepped back. And then there was 2 new release managers just coming out from the former members of the team. Now, as all might know, Colin is about this year to get married, so he has not so much time this year, which is of course better. Okay, he announced that to the team. So, and now he finds that somebody else from the release team is just doing the announcements they will announce. So that just happened. And that's why, well, of course it's a very good working team, but there are always 1 to 2 persons who are more or less taking up leadership. And who are these 2 persons changes from time to time as people drop out, new people come in. And I think that's the way it works. So if there's at least somebody else who takes a bit of leadership, that's enough for a group. Because if the major leader drops out, that works. There's only one thing that really can damage a team. If the former major leader just sends regular mails every week and say, I'm still the official leader and I'm just about to come back. That's the worst thing that can happen. Anything else is easy to cope with.
Yeah. Okay.
I think people are leaving. Thank you very much.
Thank you for